Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back to Dead Malls, your one-stop shop for malls, retail, and everything in the details. And welcome back to our Northern Midwest expedition here on Season 5. Today as we leave Iowa and Minnesota, we go into a land never before trekked by a mall explorer. Today we take a look at the small town liminal dream that is Watertown Mall in Watertown, South Dakota. A mall in which I had zero expectations of what to expect, but a mall that nonetheless fascinated me in its endless lost sights. Before we dive in today, I'd like to take a moment to shout out our winner who was able to successfully guess the next mall. Very nice job, Ava G. If you'd like to have your chance of being shouted out in the next episode, make sure to stick around for the next challenge. Anyways, let's head in, take a look, and see how Watertown Mall is doing as of my visit in October of 2022. Now I may have added the small muzak as per typical, but what you'll be able to notice between songs and just as we walk through here is how utterly silent it is. Now this may not be the emptiest mall we've covered here on the channel, but boy, was it quiet. So where does Watertown Mall's story begin? Well, if I'm being 100% honest with you all, this might be the very first mall in the history of this series that has zero history. There's no recorded date of opening, who built it, which stores were once held, or anything. What we do know though is what we can tell based off the architecture and several storefronts. Opening in the late 1970s or early 80s as my guess, Watertown Mall originally opened with anchors JCPenney, Herberger's, and Kmart. At just around 15,000 in population, the brand new mall on the west side of town would thrive for several years. Based on stories I've heard from locals, this was the place to be, containing several national name brands, food venues, and an arcade. It wasn't until the early 2000s in which the first changes would come to the mall. Down here in the old JCPenney wing, we have featured some of the oldest and saddest storefronts, which I'm not really sure what these were. Similar to Northbridge last week, if any of you know, please let me know down below. What was once down here? Was this an old Sam Goody by chance? While I was walking through Watertown Mall, I was sort of surprised why I haven't seen this mall anywhere else before. I mean, I know it's kind of out of the way, but it was such an interesting find. I think that there's an importance to capturing and documenting these small Midwest malls like Watertown. While every mall east of the Mississippi has been scrutinized and captured by nearly everyone else, there's still mall stories out there yet to be told, even if, in the case of Watertown, they're practically non-existent. On January 1st, 2003, Kmart would close their doors after the company would shutter over 200 underperforming locations. This was the first sign of trouble and the beginning of its fall from grace. Over the years, more and more name brands would leave the mall. Eventually, Dunham Sports would come to fill half of the old Kmart, which is actually quite interesting because if you look at the mall's website, only half of it is shaded in. So that makes me wonder, what's it like in the back half of that old Kmart? Does it still have that classic abandoned Kmart look, sitting in complete darkness? Let me know what you think down below. Oh, you already know I had to go into Angel's Attic. What kind of thrifting finds am I going to find in here today? No, but for real, I really just wanted to see the inside of this old Herberger's, which sat abandoned for a few years, but is now used as this weird discount thrifting store. It's got some interesting finds, that's for sure. There's something oddly fitting about this old Muzak. Perfect in a mall, oh, always. But in an old department store turned thrift finds, full of junk abandoned by the 80s and 90s, I half expect to turn one of these corners and find Napoleon Dynamite and search for some thrift store nunchucks. I'm not even kidding when I say that there was a point when I was exploring this old department store and I started to get a little lost. Like I was trying really hard to find the mall entrance and I just couldn't find it. And then I just so happened to turn a corner and oh, there it is. Whew, that was a little nerve-wracking right there. As we come down towards the old Kmart, now Dunham's, we get to see the other half of the mall, and the storefronts here paint a very vivid image of how rural this mall is. Vanity, GNC, Radio Shack, I can almost smell the must off those dusty abandoned storefronts and see elder mall walkers making their rounds. The old Kmart is surprisingly visible, maybe it's just me, but the entrance has a very Kmart-y look. What do you think? Well, folks, it was bound to happen eventually, but Da-da-dum! It's time for the comment that made a North Sea Dog think. Tonight's comment comes from Gadpibs, a simple observation. They say, the carpet is giving me strong public library nostalgia, in a weird way. I loved going to both the mall and the library as a kid in the 90s, so this is like the perfect combination of both. Nostalgia overload for sure. And I have to agree with you, Gadpibs. Commenting on the previous episode of Northbridge, that mall threw off insane public library feels, like it was just recently stripped of its bookshelves. I half expected to turn one of those corners and see those blocky backrooms letters plastered up, "The End." So that makes me wonder, if Northbridge was the end, what does that make Watertown? Which backrooms level does this mall most align with? Level 33, or what? Relax, take a seat, and enjoy yourselves as the Vaporwave engulfs you, takes you away to another world, one where Kmart, Herberger's, and JCPenney are still here, and all of those stores are still full of those names you remember, as the shopping forever lives on when you're deeply meditated in a massage chair high. At this point, they should just turn the whole mall into storage. One thing I always find amusing about dying malls like this is how they always manage to turn dead stores into storage space. It always happens. Maybe a little too frequently here at Watertown. They should seriously start advertising these spaces as storage units. I guarantee you they would go a lot quicker. It wouldn't be an impromptu mall trip to a rural mall without exploring its back hallways. Let's see what goodies are down here to find. As we come down the hallway here, we get to the next bit of history with our Watertown Mall. The next big name lost would be JCPenney, after they would leave the rural South Dakota market entirely in June of 2017, also closing their locations in Mitchell, Pierre, and Yankton. Almost every store in the old JCPenney wing would vacate after this departure. Walking through Watertown Mall in 2017 was like being in a ghost town. Not entirely dead, but not alive either. It was only sparsely dotted by a few national name brands you'd expect to see in a rural mall. Bath & Body, GNC, Trade Home. Herbergers would only stoke the fire as they would leave in 2018, leaving Watertown Mall without any of its original anchors, and only a small Dunham Sports as its draw. They say curiosity killed the cat, but in Watertown, that's not necessarily the case. Curiosity never killed the explorer, so I just had to come in here and take a look at this old Claire's turned Angel's Attic, another part of that old discount store in the Herbergers. I guess this is their Christmas section, so be jolly and be merry, and don't forget, don't look the dolls in the eyes. Don't do it! So what do you think the future holds for Watertown Mall? Is it doomed to meet the Grim Reaper, or do you think it has a life ahead of it? Maybe one day I'll come back and Angel's Attic will have spread to every old store. I guess only time will tell. If any of you are ever in the area, stop by and shop some of the local shops at Watertown Mall, or just find yourself hypnotized by those dolls, like I was. Guys, I want to thank you so much for watching tonight's episode. Watertown Mall was one I've dreamed of seeing for years, and to check it off was very satisfying. If you guys enjoy my Dead Mall episodes, consider subscribing so you don't miss out on our Season 5 finale, and head over to the Patreon for a monthly Dead Mall Polaroid taken and signed by me. Next week, as we head back into the land of 10,000 lakes, we check out an even smaller town mall, which features one singular store in its entirety. Guess which mall we'll be at, and I'll shout you out in the next episode. But until then, have yourselves a lovely day, and peace out, guys. See you later.